team. They're tough. You can look at the other games we've played. I did not feel like the energy level in the dugout was what we wanted it to be out of the gate, but Marlowe got going. Mason Martinez was back to looking like his normal self. Offensively, we finally got to string some things together. And, Faroe, just a beautiful run, incredible. We talked about it after the game a little bit, but just the vision and how he feels in the box is just such a rare experience as a player. And um, I want Faroe to just go do his thing. So I was going to leave him in that game. I didn't care everybody else. We were out of players. He was staying in there, and those are special opportunities. Um, we were back at the field about 6:30, 6:45 yesterday morning. The guys had to load, pack, laundry had to be done. So the managers are trying to flip everything around. 8 o'clock on the bus to the airport, check in. Um, that's a challenge on a commercial flight, but the cost of some of these things, you have to allocate your funding where you think it's best suited. And there's actually flights to San Francisco that are functional commercially. We had basically 30 minutes between flights, which then got trimmed to about 15 minutes. They held the plane for us. Drew and I tried to figure out a way to get food. So the Chick-fil-A in the airport was kind enough to deliver food. So as we raced through the gate to get onto the plane, the guys had some food because that's a 5-hour flight and they really wouldn't have eaten if the folks in the airport hadn't cooperated and allowed us to grab something. So we got to the hotel at 8 o'clock at night Eastern time, 5 Pacific, and there's a beautiful weight room. Part of the reason we're staying in Walnut Creek is to have a facility that allowed them today and last night to stretch out a little bit. There's a nice weight room. Some of the pitchers, there's an open park area, so some of the guys actually grabbed their stuff and went and played catch yesterday. Um, so there's a lot that goes into when we walked off that field Tuesday to get to where we sit this morning. It's complex. It takes a lot of logistics, but here we are. And then I'm sitting in 24B, and I had a series in the 2026 season. I get my text that, Coach, we're not going to be able to make it. We're trying to redo the padding on the third base left field side, and Hauser, some of the things that they didn't go right the first time, so they're trying to do that. The recruiting is a never-ending battle, so some of the things staff-wise, when you're 34,000 feet over Denver, you're working on some things on top of the Cal series that have to be done to keep pace and keep moving forward. So we will head at 9:50. The Giants were gracious enough to allow us to actually practice on Oracle Park today for a little while. And Gavin Warner, their director of operations, and Greg Elliott, who actually runs the field, kind enough to let us not just look around, but we're going to have a little workout there. Cal was doing some field work in the morning, so we weren't going to be able to get on their field until this evening. And, we're a little ways away and the traffic becomes an issue. So this is really, really cool of them to offer that. And Randy Burdett and Drew Linder knew some folks, and clearly Buster being involved in that organization helps us. But those folks to open the field itself for our players to take some BP, some ground balls. We have guys that have to throw bullpens. Like I don't know where you go if you don't have access to something. We weren't going to wait until tonight to try to go to Cal's field. So that's what we're looking at right now. And Cal is, by the numbers, they're a talented team. They swing the bats. They have some talented left-handed hitters. They've got a really good Friday night arm that they will throw. So, our work is cut out, and this is a tricky trip, and this is part of it. And we're not the only team that clearly had to make this trip, but when it's time to go tomorrow night, like, we have to be on it. And Jamie and Joey and then Wes will be our rotation again, and we'll have Connor Hults back in the equation a little bit as needed, probably Saturday or Sunday. So we'll try to get him in there, and we need some help to, even if it's one left-handed hitter. You could pick moments if you look at the Clemson games at Canarella and Lipsy and Priest, and like, there's some moments where you need that left-handed arm to spin a good breaking ball and challenge some of the left-handed bats that we deal with. So that's where we are right now.
Coach, I know you just spent like 10 minutes talking about how complicated and how stressful it was to go over there, but I guess the fact that you are now settled over there, I mean, how cool is it for these kids to check out, be able to be in California? Obviously, they're going to play the University of California. You guys are going to be practicing at a major league ballpark. I imagine all these guys aspire to be professional baseball players. It feels like maybe this is kind of a different taste of it than any other road trip you've ever had.
Yeah, from right now moving forward, this is going to be beautiful. We went over the Bay Bridge yesterday, and some of the guys had never seen that or the looks of that or what the hills of South San Fran look like when you drive through and you see all these houses and apartments and things build up into the hills. So they got to taste it a little bit yesterday. Now, when we leave here in a little bit, now they're going to see some things that will change their lives forever when you get to go onto that. And we hope that shoot, I hope every one of these guys gets a chance to play in a major league stadium one day, like as a player. Like I hope Tibbs is on this field before too long, and Cam and those guys actually, it's in the cards for them sooner than later. But this will be really neat, and logistically, with what's on the line, you're trying. We're here a day early because unwinding from that is not an easy process, and I do want people to know like the difficulty of getting 50 people. We had to put our luggage on the aisles of the bus because there's so much stuff we couldn't actually get it underneath from the airport to the hotel for that hour and a half ride. So I think from right now forward will be more normal. Yeah, yesterday was clearly a testy one, but this will be really cool. And the weather's different, and they're talking about McCovey Cove, and I know what's on the left-handed hitter's mind. So whether this is productive or counterproductive, I will find out.
With baseball being such a preparation sport, I know you kind of touched on it, but with this time shift for guys like Jamie, Wes, Joey, the starting pitchers, does anything change for them having to go 3 hours back? And especially when you look ahead in the playoffs, you're going to have to go to different time zones, different regions. Is this something that they can use as like a baseline moving forward?
I'm sure it is. I think the adjustment today, like if we played today, I think that would be far trickier than building in the day to regroup and recover. You're a little beat up today. It's strange. Like going to bed last night is different, and you look, for me it's 8:14, and it's just different. So but I think the full day to recover, and then hopefully building in the day on the back end allows us to recover a little bit. Like we're flying Monday, so you jump on that overnight red eye and you try to fly out Sunday night. I think it may throw you off more than if you just spend one more night and burn a day. And I lost the midweek game. Like you look at what the Tuesday game, I know you guys don't feel it like the players do, but that Tuesday and what's going on in the locker room with all the stuff everywhere, like we couldn't play the Tuesday game that I had on the schedule coming off of this trip. I just didn't feel like it was fair to the guys with the Thursday North Carolina series. So the built-in days hopefully help, and that's all I need to do to put them in the best position from a health and safety standpoint.
There were times earlier this year where it felt like Mason was one of your top arms out of the bullpen. Just the way that he threw on Tuesday, just how important is that to what you guys can do under the bullpen?
Yeah, Brett, it's huge. He was. I mean, when Mike and I break this down, these are ongoing. We talk about this stuff every day, not just game. It's all day, every day. I mean, arguably, it's the most important part of your program is the bullpen management, and he was up at the top of the chart on reliability and stuff and confidence. And then when he was down for a little while, like I think naturally you lose maybe a little confidence, and you weren't feeling right. So that clearly isn't ideal. But then to get back out there and actually see the stuff, and I see the guys peak at the velocity on the board, and when you see that registering what you know it should be when you're on your A game, I think that helps. And you could see that little spark in him again. So great. And Holtz too. Now, Holtz has to be better than when Holtz was thrown at the beginning of the year. But when you think down the stretch last year at how much he helped, I'm hoping down the stretch this year we get that because we actually saw him better in the preseason early on than maybe he was at all last year. So that's a big addition from the left side that can help us here too.
Just following up on that, the experience that Connor did have in the postseason last year, just how important can that be for someone that could potentially be thrown in high leverage situations coming back after such a long period of not pitching?
Yeah, I heard somebody talk about this one time, and I wasn't sure I bought it, but tasting it first before you're ready to own it, I think there is some application to that. Like, what does it feel like? I mean, some of these guys have never played in a postseason game. A lot of them, I most of them. So okay, now you've done it. Nobody been to Omaha, so now you've been to Omaha. You've been in the but you start to add up the guys that have tasted that. It does factor in. It factors in, and it will factor in for Holtz. There's no doubt. There's no doubt about it. And some of the experiences, it's not all good. Like there's good experiences in the sport that you have, and then there's also bad moments that you have to grow from and galvanize through. Some of the things that when you're out there don't go exactly the way you wanted, but that taste and feel irreplaceable, and you're more mature and you're better, and you know what to expect, and you know how to grow from having gone through it, and he will be better for it.
Coach, I don't know how you like break up the season, whether you think about the non-conference slate, then you go into the conference part of it, and then postseason. But it always feels like at this program, this time of year, like around finals, this program's always kind of in the running to be obviously in the national tournament. But is there a level of, kind of, I don't know, I want to say finality, but is there like a greater level of urgency? I know that's not even the right way to really put it, but just with everything being so focused now on baseball, school's kind of out of the way. Do you kind of push some different buttons to get the most out of guys now?
You know, the more I've done this, the less emphasis I do put on the parts of the season because what I've seen is in all of the programs I've been in, if you really want to be in the conversation, you better play out of the gate with a style and in a manner that allows you to be in the conversation when the calendar goes to May. And if you've played that way and you've played properly when the calendar gets to June, these become normal game day atmospheres and operations. And that's what I try to do. To talk about standings, rankings, that sort of thing, I really don't. And I don't separate the season. The conference tournament for me is the toughest thing of all of it to figure out because you have such rhythm to how you play the season. And even a regional and a super regional, there's a little bit of normalcy to that. The conference tournament is chaos. So that's the only one, like, with some unpacking for me to do. The rest of it, I try to treat it all the same. They're not the same ramifications, but how you approach it to try to get the consistency of delivery and performance, I try to keep all of that the same. And I do tell the guys, your easiest route to where you want to be and your ultimate goal is to come out of the gates and perform from day one. If you do not do that, you're not going to be in the right conversation this time of year. So we did it, and we are. That's about as far as I take it in terms of like pushing and assessing and trying to throw other layers on them. And I did talk Tuesday night about the importance of this game. because these guys know. I said, guys, this you're walking out there. This is a monumental game you're playing, and you know that everything is part of your resume, and you're building it. The game doesn't know who's supposed to win or lose these games. It doesn't matter if the Atlanta Braves roll out or like Winthrop Park. You have to go execute and perform and deliver the result, and that's how we try to approach it from February 14th to tomorrow.
We didn't get to ask you about him because of the way the game kind of ended in the weather delay, but obviously Joey's start didn't end the way he wanted, but just the way he pitched throughout that game against Clemson, just how impressive was it the way he was able to kind of work through that lineup as efficiently as he did?
Yeah, it was really good. Like really good. I thought all of his stuff was there. Arguably as good as we've seen him throw. Some really good sliders. He felt the changeup. He wanted to use the changeup. He did. And they have a good mix. So you'll see your good lineups have that left right balance where it's tough to just lean on one secondary pitch over and over. You have to have multiple. And as we've seen, that curveball is a big field pitch and it's got such big height and spin. Sometimes getting into the game and feeling that thing, it started to get better and better. Um, and I tell the guys, I apologize for grinding on you about, there were 30 seconds of that game that if you had to, an 0-2 changeup, he didn't get off the plate. The guy hits down the line. The slider, he hung to Canarella off the wall. We don't keep our feet. We try to decoy at third base. We don't catch the baseball. We don't back up. Like in a blink of an eye, that outing, you walk out of there feeling disgusted with yourself when really it was as good as he could pitch. Minus two pitches and backing up third base. But in these type of competitions, every facet of what you're doing does matter. But your question, yes, all of it was in play. Game management, like tempo, it was great. And these guys are we've built and trained, and I have not hung them out there to throw 130 or 140 pitches. We've tried to get to a point where now we still are fresh, hopefully, where now we can start to, when we need to really let it go, we can extend it a little bit. And I think he's there.
Any other questions for Coach? Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Link.
Thanks,
Yep.
guys.
All right,
Thanks,
guys. See ya.